Everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome to my YouTube channel. I am the Real Cass Perry, and today... Okay, I guess that's just not gonna be straight. Alrighty. Oh, Lord. Today we are going to be reading Reddit stories. So, the first one is titled, "I found a stone with strange symbols as a kid. My dad's terrifying reaction still haunts me." When I was 8 years old, I went on a mountain hiking trip in my city with my family. While walking, I came across a strange stone that looked like a book. It had carvings and writings in languages that I couldn't understand, and for some reason, it felt like it was calling to me. That's abnormal. My sister didn't come with us on the trip, so I thought this would make a cool gift for her. I picked up the stone and told my dad that I was going to give it to my sister as a present. The moment that he saw it, his face changed. He got really angry and yelled at me to throw it away immediately. Before I could react, he snatched it from my hand and threw it away. Then he grabbed me and told us that we were leaving right now. We went down the mountain quickly, and to this day, I have no explanation for my dad's reaction or what that strange stone was. It still gives me chills whenever I think about it. What makes this even weirder is that when I grew older and asked my dad about it, sometimes he acted like he didn't hear me, and other times he just said he didn't remember anything about it. But now he remembers. But I know he remembers, even now. If I ever talk about going on adventures near that same mountain, he reminds me very seriously never to go there again. So what do you guys think that stone could have been? What you barking at, Ness? Oh, Peter's watching videos out there. That's probably what it is. That makes a lot of sense. I should probably shut that door. Yeah, I should probably shut the door. That's probably my best idea at the moment. Okay. Alrighty, and we are back. Okay. The next one is titled, "I woke up to my reflection smiling at me from the window, but I wasn't smiling." And it is by U-Delicious-Comb-2394. I don't know why I find all of the name titles so funny. It's ridiculous. And it's probably just a me thing, but I read all of everybody's name in like the weirdest, funniest way inside of my brain. It's silly. It's silly. Anyways, I woke up to my reflection smiling at me from the window, but I wasn't smiling by Delicious_Comb 2394. Last night, around 3 a.m., I rolled over in bed and caught a glimpse of my window. The curtains were half open, and I saw my own reflection staring back at me in the glass. Only, something was wrong. I was lying down, still half asleep, but my reflection was standing, its head tilted, its mouth stretched into a wide grin. I froze, not even breathing, watching it for what felt like forever, and then slowly it raised its hand and tapped the glass from the inside. I yanked the curtains shut and didn't dare look again until the morning. When I finally opened them, the glass had a single greasy handprint on the inside of the window. Ooh. Okay, that's creepy. Um, know what we should do? No, know what I should do? I should shut the lights off for the extra creepy effect. Okay. We've got the camera shut off for our extra creepy effect. And our camera just fell over all on its own. Well, that's a new one. Well, guys, I guess our creepy ambiance has already started paying itself off. Okay. So, the next one is from Lake Garden 5557, and it is titled, I was a RTTO, registered tow truck operator, for about 2 years. It's titled My Horror Story as a Tow Truck Driver. Blah, 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 blah. I can't speak English. I was a registered tow truck operator for about 2 years. It was a great job. The pay was good, and I got lots of overtime and on-call shifts. I got into the career because of shows I watched as a kid, like Highway Through Hell. So, when I got the chance to go into the field, I jumped on it. The first month was good, and I learned a lot of experience and new skills. Part of our job as a registered tow truck operator was emergency call with police and fire for crash scenes and impounds. So we saw a lot of tragic stuff. DUI fatality, hit and runs, non-DUI fatalities, etc. The job can be very emotionally and mentally draining, and it can mess you up if you're not careful. However, there's another kind of aspect to the job that not a lot of drivers talk about: the paranormal, odd, or off calls, stuff that unsettles you. Almost every tow truck driver has experienced it. It was a snowy, cold November night in 2023. We didn't get a lot of calls that day, so I was just chilling at the shop for my on-call shift, and then all of the sudden I get a WSP, which is Washington State Patrol call. I have a hair in my mouth. Washington State Patrol call for a broken down WSP car off this dirt road. I didn't think much of it at the time, and it wasn't too weird for me since I've gotten a few calls like it before. So I hop in my flatbed and drive up to the call's location. The directions took me a good 30-ish minutes outside of the city to the mountains on I-90. By the time that I got off the freeway, it was super foggy and hard to see, so I took it slow and easy to be safe. I keep driving up the now dirt mountain road, and I keep thinking to myself, this is a really odd road for a Washington State Patrol to be on, since they usually stay on interstates and state highways. But I shrugged it off, since he could have just been out there helping the sheriff or something more normal. I finally got to the location and just stopped the truck and just sit there for a minute. What the hell, I think to myself. The Washington State Patrol car was parked out on this mountain road with all of its doors open and no lights on, with no officers in sight. It was so foggy, I really could only see the car, but it was clear to me that no one was in sight. I very heavily contemplated just turning around and going back, but I eventually decided to hop out and inspect the car and look for the officer. As a tow truck driver, I carried with me, so I grabbed my AR with my sidearm holstered and got out of the truck, not knowing what the heck I was about to walk into or see. I walked up to the car very cautiously and first checked out the driver's seat. Nothing was missing, all of the equipment was still in its place, and the CAD and everything. And then I walk around to the passenger side. Again, same thing, nothing wrong, nothing is missing or moved. And then I go to look at the trunk, where they usually keep the AR shotguns, etc. I get to the trunk, but this time the AR and only the AR was missing. And that's when I noticed that the forest was dead quiet. No wind, no nothing. I have seen a lot of messes up stuff, dead bodies, the entire families killed in one accident, etc. But I was completely unnerved. Something inside of me was telling me to get the hell out of there. But before I did anything, I called my dispatcher just to make sure that I had the right location and information, and sure enough, everything was correct. At that point, I was ready as hell to get out as fast as possible. Right before I turned the truck around, I yelled out for the cop. Nothing but dead silence came back. Something was not right, I said to myself, so I booked it out of there. The whole drive back, I had this sick feeling like I had stumbled across something that I was absolutely not supposed to see, nor was I supposed to be there. I keep thinking why the cop was all the way out there, why he left the car, why all the doors were wide open, or if it was even a cop in the first place. More or less, why only is the AR missing when thousands of dollars worth of equipment was in that car? Once I got back to the shop, I called the police dispatcher that gave us the call, since I knew her, and I was hoping that she could give me some answer. But no, she said the exact same thing that was said to me, that a WSP car was broken down and just needed a tow. I never told my supervisor or anyone else out of fear that they wouldn't believe me. I mean, you wouldn't if I were them. I never hear anything about missing cop after nothing on the news. Just nothing. It still creeps me out to this day, just thinking about it. Did I understand this correctly? He found a empty police vehicle in the middle of the forest and doesn't know where the owner is? Okay then. Okay. That's terrifying. Why do I have another one from Delicious Comb 2394? Okay. I live alone, so why do I hear footsteps in my apartment at 3 a.m.? Almost every night at around 3 a.m., I hear slow, heavy footsteps pacing across my living room floor. Even though I live alone on the third floor with no one above me. My dog growls at the hallway. I've locked every door and window and even spread flour on the floor once to see if I'd catch footprints. Nothing. But the steps keep coming. sometimes followed by my kitchen chair scraping across the tile or my TV remote mysteriously moving from the nightstand to the couch. I don't drink, I don't sleepwalk, and I know what footsteps sound like. And every night I just lie in bed waiting for them to start again. Okay. This one was written by Shanae Gosby, and it is titled The Creepiest Experience I Had Living with My Folks. Back in 2018 or 2019, I was hanging out with a friend one evening, around 6:30. I decided to head home. It was that time of year when it gets pitch black early, the kind of darkness that makes a scary story even creepier. The drive only took about 10 or 15 minutes, and when I pulled into the driveway, I realized that I was alone. My parents were either out to dinner or out of town. I can't remember which. But the point is that the house was completely mine for the night. When you walk into my house, you step right into the living room. To the right is the kitchen, and to the left, there is a hallway that leads to a spare bedroom, the bathroom, and finally, my room. The house was dark, but I didn't bother turning the lights since it's a straight path to my room, anyways. As I started walking down the hallway, I froze. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a half a face and a shoulder peeking out from my bathroom doorway. No. Ooh, that's so. No. No. That's when you use something as a projectile weapon. The instant I focused on it, the figure slipped back inside. Yeah, is there a lock? Do you have a lock? Get a lock. My first reaction, looking back, probably not the smartest, was to rush straight into the bathroom. I flicked on the light, heart pounding, but the room was empty. Nobody there, nothing at all. I'd experienced odd things before, little moments that felt paranormal, but never this clear, never this real, and to this day, that's still the most intense, unforgettable experience I've ever had with the unexplained. That is terrifying. What? How does one even deal with that? What do you even do in that situation? Because I would be the person who would bun rush that door too. Like, I would be floof directly in there. Like, get the hell out of my house. Who are you? What the hell are you doing in here? Like, so no, that is not the smartest reaction, but that is most likely the most common reaction, to be fair, and to be fair with you here. Yeah. Oh my gosh. This one was written by U-OK Beyond, and it is titled, I Think I Saved My Friend from Getting Trafficked. Okay, this is probably this is going to be scary. Back in May in 2024, I'd 32 female, recently been let go from a job due to company downsizing. But I was getting paid severance as well as I had a good portion of money saved up in my retirement fund. So I was taking a small break. Before picking up another job, my best friend, 28 female, had just inherited a car from her family back in California, and she wanted to fly back there to pick it up and drive it back to New Orleans. She also missed home, and she wanted to spend around 2 weeks in Cali before driving back across the states for another 2 weeks, so we could take the time to see some sights along the way. And since I was job free and had never seen California before, she asked if I would want to join her on the road trip, and even offered to cover my plane ticket, hotel, Airbnb stays, and the gas. So all I'd have to pitch in with was my own food. I thought that that was really overly generous, but she'd assured me that it literally wasn't going to put a dent on her funds since she had a ton saved up and was quite well off. She just thought, for one, she'd feel safer going on a road trip with a trusted friend. Plus, it would be a fun friend trip for the both of us, so I'd agreed. As someone who was born and raised on the East Coast, I thought that California was a huge change and pretty amazing. I loved the fresh air and the lack of intense humidity, and after collecting the car, we started driving east through Nevada, and then Utah, and then ended up in Wyoming. And right after crossing the Wyoming border, we stopped for gas and had some snacks. We weren't really hungry enough to stop into the diner next to the gas station. My friend loves photography though, and she wanted to pull up to the Wyoming Welcome Center across the street to take pictures of the surrounding cliffs and the railroad that was cutting through the lower canyon. Now, let me paint you a picture. Aside from the small gas station and diner across the street, and the little welcome center across from them with the Welcome to Wyoming sign, this area was basically empty, and it was only us parked at the welcome center and about 2 cars at the diner across the street. Now, while my friend went to go snap pictures of the canyon and the railroad, I stayed in the car to lounge because I wasn't really feeling great. I get hit with vertigo spells and migraines, and I was trying to rest it off. But out of nowhere, this guy saunters up behind her and didn't call out when approaching her to alert her of his presence. Only said something when she whipped around and saw him. Even though I was reclined in the passenger seat of the car, I sit up immediately. I couldn't hear what the guy was saying to her, and she was just responding as calmly as possible to what he said, but made a slight hand signal to me in the car. I grabbed the keys out of the ignition because it was the only weapon that I had available. Yeah, that makes sense. And I got out of the car. Plus, I didn't want to risk him bolting for the car and driving off with it. Smart. That's pretty smart. So, when I got out of the car, the guy looked surprised to see me there, and his entire demeanor seemed to grow shifty. "Hey, what's up?" I asked, direct but casual. He said that he was just wondering if she could help him take a picture of him with his phone by the Welcome to Wyoming sign by the road. Now, my friend or I could have said, "Nah, sorry, but you really never know how someone is going to react to being told no." He had a hand in his pocket, and I really couldn't tell if he was holding a weapon out of sight or not. Smart thinking. As crazy as it seems, we agreed to help him out. No, I'd just take the picture, honestly. If all he's asking about is if you can take a picture for him, I'd just take the picture. Well, she played nice girl and chatted with him on the way to the sign. I followed closely behind them both, watching them the entire way towards the sign. The guy kept faltering in his steps like he was trying to slow down enough until we were ahead of him, but I didn't allow that. I would just stop and wait until he kept walking. He never looked back at me, but he was acting tense and fidgety. I had the car keys between my fingers just in case. Yeah, you were the scary one in this situation, babes. I'm sorry. To be fair, I'd be the scary one in this situation too. I am the big bad. I ain't afraid of nobody. I just don't want to get in a fight. Oh my lord. Just in case I might have to jab him if he lashed out at a moment's notice. I also glanced at the diner across the street to make sure that we stayed in view of it, though one never knows if people will actually assist or if they'll just go into bystander mode. So I had to stay alert. After all, if anything happened, it wasn't like law enforcement would appear out of thin air and resolve an issue. That is very true. You can't really count on that. It's not. The world ain't safe. The entire time we walked towards the welcome billboard, I listened to their conversation as well. The guy claimed that he was in the States on a business trip with his coworkers. Said that he was from Brazil, but he sounded Slavic. Not saying that you can't be Slavic and live in Brazil, just giving details that I noticed. He had a slight tan, very short dark hair, and a lean build, maybe 5'10", 6 foot. My friend and I are about 5'5", 5'6", but I'm more built muscle-wise. I've been told that I look a little intimidating for a woman. I know how that feels. I've been told I look a little bit intimidating for a woman, which perhaps was a good thing in this situation. Yes, it's always a good thing in that situation. My friend asked where his coworkers were, and he claimed that they were at the diner across the street, yet he hadn't parked his car there, which I thought was odd. Yeah, that is odd. His car was parked closest to the road of the Welcome Center. My vertigo and headache were completely forgotten because I was running on pure adrenaline. Everything was happening in slow motion, and my mind was racing with every possible scenario that could happen, so that I could mentally prepare myself for what could happen next. When we got to the billboard, he gave my friend his phone and she took his picture in front of the billboard twice. When he came back to look at the photos and was like, "These are good, nice, thanks so much," then he kept rambling and asking how we liked America and if we've ever traveled outside the country before. I was becoming more uneasy because we were still just standing there by the road and I kept glancing to see if any cars were coming. I swear we stood there for 5 whole minutes before he finally started walking back to his car in a very slow shuffle. I might add, it was like he was purposefully stalling and once again kept trying to get behind me. No dice. While his back was turned, I bent to stuff some gravel and sand into my pocket. Pocket sand! I shouldn't be joking right now. I wanted every possible weapon at my disposal. We walked a little more, and I bent down again while he wasn't looking to pick up a fist rock and just hit it slightly behind me so he couldn't see it. My mind was already preparing to rationalize beating this guy's skull in if I had to. I don't think that, well, I mean, I get it, but I feel like this is a little bit of an overreaction. Even I think this is an overreaction. When we got to the parking lot, my friend and I stopped, and he finally looked back and stopped before glancing back to his car and then at us. He starts rambling again and making more conversation. He didn't urge us to go back to his car, but he was once again stalling. Literally, he'd finish a topic, go quiet for a couple of seconds, and then ask us another question or bring up another topic to keep us talking. This went on for another 5 minutes, and then I finally said, "Well, we better get back on the road. We're expected." And he looked a little uneasy before saying, "Oh, well, okay, thanks for the help. Goodbye." And he turned to walk away very briskly to his car. My friend almost headed right for our car, but I stopped her and said, "Wait, I want to make sure he drives off first." I remember he said that his coworkers were at the diner across the street. Plus, I didn't want to run the risk of us getting in our car and being followed. This guy sat in his car for a few minutes, and my friend and I pretended that we were talking just in case he was watching us, and then finally he drove off. We stayed there until we couldn't see his car anymore, and then we went back to our car. Both of us were shaking. Sometimes you just know something is off. My friend said that she felt like the guy was going to try and traffic her and said, "I'm so glad I brought you with me on this trip because holy shite, you looked like a German shepherd when you sat up in the car when I signaled you." I've never really been in a fight in my life. I've been lucky enough that I've never really had to. I've had close calls, but I've always managed to de-escalate the situation before it got physical, and perhaps this was yet another one of those times. But I have never been more prepared to take someone out if it meant my friend and I could get out of there with our lives intact. It was pretty scary, and needless to say that we both brought ourselves some mace at the next stop. I didn't run into any further problems in our trip, but I'll never forget all of the details that happened with that encounter. Something was just off. The car and the thought that we were about to Thelma and Louise's ass, and that's fine by me. I'd rather think. Oh my gosh. All of that being said, you go on a road trip, try to have someone with you if possible, and stay alert when you stop anywhere, and keep aware of your surroundings, and keep an eye out for a threat. Honestly, it is possible that y'all were in danger, but it seems to me like this fellow was literally just trying to get somebody to help him take a picture. He's just a tourist. And this seems like a little bit of an overreaction, y'all. It's a bit of an overreaction. Yeah. Just a little bit. Just a teeny little bit. Tiny little bit of overreaction. But that's okay. You're allowed to overreact. We are allowed to overreact. Okay, so this one was written by exo_TTV. I don't know what that means, but it is labeled disturbing. Okay, now that we are aware that it is labeled disturbing, we may possibly be disturbed by this. The title is called This Shook Me to My Core. Alrighty. Clear my throat. So, growing up, I always wanted a job like my dad. He was a hard worker. I, 21 male, am now was only 18 at the time. Working at a gas station, there was a fair share of homeless people that would come in for stuff and use the bathroom, etc. That's perfectly fine. Let them use the bathroom. Everybody needs to use the toilet once in a while. But one in particular caught my eye. She had no nose. Gone. It wasn't there. I don't know what happened. That's not that unusual. Well, it is unusual, but it's not that unusual. When I was younger, my dad had his nose bit off by a German Shepherd. Or it wasn't a German Shepherd, it was a Doberman Pinscher. He had his nose bit off by a Doberman Pinscher, and that thing grew back. It was weird. I'm amazed that it grew back, actually. But yeah, I'm surprised it didn't grow back, but yeah, I'm not surprised she got no nose. Maybe she went down and bear hugged a Doberman Pinscher and it got snapped off. Anyway. And she was blind in one eye. I think it was bright crystal blue. She would come in, but wasn't like the other ones. She would lock herself in the bathroom when no one else was in the store. Now, for reference, I have to clean those bathrooms on my shift, or I will get in trouble. She would sit in the bathroom from 1 a.m. to 3 a.m., scream crying hard. One time, she came in, didn't use the bathroom. We are allowed to give free coffee to cops, and I'd sometimes give my dad free coffee when he stopped in there before his shift before his shift. He's a blue collar worker, and as am I now. But this is written so weirdly. He is a blue-collar worker, and as am I now. I shouldn't be making fun of the way it's written. I should just try to... Okay. He is a blue-collar worker, and so am I, as I am as well at the moment. Okay, that's better. But I wanted to be nice. She looked like she had a rough night. I wanted to help, so I gave her a free coffee and told her that it was free. And she said, "Really?" Seemed touched, and then grabbed a donut, which I didn't say she could have, but I didn't stop her. She grabbed another and ran out. Nothing weird. I thought maybe she had finally had that break that she wanted. The next night comes, and now things get weird. Here, she didn't come in this night. She stood at the window, staring right through me. I waved, no movement. Okay, that's creepy. She just stared. I waited to see her blink, and she didn't. She just stood there. I closed the blinds. Now, for reference, we have a circle counter and a circle window. I would have seen her walk away or to the side or just anything. Well, my manager came over. His name was Terry. He told me that I couldn't have the curtains down at night. As he opened them, she was gone. I went outside to do the trash, and I went up to each pump taking out the trash, one at a time. As I got to the last one, she was there, running at me, full sprint. Now, I'm not fat, but I'm a bit stocky, so I grabbed the cart full of trash and I ran back to the gate area with the trash compactor and I shut it. And I grabbed the gate and her pupils, but she grabbed the gate, her pupils wider than before, watching me, breathing heavy. I quickly threw the trash in the compactor and went in. As I went in, I heard the door's bell came on. She was in the store, but looked normal now. She stole more donuts and stared as she left. I told my manager, and he said he'd do something about it. Well, I didn't have work the next day, so then I was working Tuesday. He told me he handled it, and as I was standing there, she was looking at me again. This time, it was the same look. When she was holding the gate. Wait, what? It was the same look as when she was holding the gate. I was so scared, and she came in looking at me. She went to our bathroom, and I heard the screaming and crying and throwing of stuff. Terry told me to go make her leave. I did. She didn't seem happy. I didn't see her the rest of the night, but when I did trash, something felt horrible. Friday rolls around, and I had a daytime shift this time. And as I'm in there, I was told that they found a dead body behind our store of a homeless woman. They said that she had been dead for at least a week or two and that she was decaying. But I had just seen her the other night. The cameras caught her. My manager had seen her. We both talked about it shortly after. I quit working there. I work with my dad now, but sometimes I get scared wondering how I could have seen someone dead for a week or two walking and talking. Zombie? Is it a zombie? Did this man encounter a zombie? Like a real life zombie? That's the only thing I can think of. Zombie. Reanimated. Sorry. I will see myself out. Oh my land. But seriously though, like, was her spirit just like trying to do everything within its power to make itself visible? What? That's terrifying. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, this one is titled, I Heard a Man Screaming Right Above Me. I live on the top floor. And this is written by Sim_Fogustus. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know how you pronounce it. But anyways, let's start the story. This happened 2 days ago, and I'm still trying to figure out what happened. I woke up at 4:30 a.m. in the morning to get ready. Pay no mind to that. It's just kids outside. I live close to a playground. This happened about 2 days ago, and I'm still trying to figure out what happened. I woke up at 4:30 a.m. in the morning to get ready for work. I like to get ready quickly, so when I hear the alarm, I'm immediately up and moving. I was in the middle of putting my uniform on in my bedroom when I heard a man scream right above me. It was the type of scream that made me immediately think that somebody was in danger. It was blood-curdling and absurdly terrifying. It lasted for about 5 seconds and then complete silence. I had to pause and process what just happened. My brain was a bit foggy from sleep, so it took me a few seconds to snap out of it and reach for my phone to call the police. I live in a pretty loud neighborhood, so hearing screams outside wasn't out of the ordinary. It was mostly children being scolded or people being rowdy, but the scream I had just heard sounded like someone was being murdered. Yeah, I'd probably be a little bit taken off guard too. I hear noises and I just go outside to make sure everything's all right. Like that seems normal. But what really left me frozen was when I realized that I live in the very top floor of the apartment building. And the screaming came from above me. That means that it was on the roof. You need to go upstairs, Famaka. Um, any, sorry. Which wouldn't make any sense because that would already be the roof. Yes, exactly. As far as I'm aware, there shouldn't be anyone up there unless there were workers, but that doesn't make any sense. It was too early in the morning, and there was no access that leads directly to it for any civilians. And the scream didn't echo into the open space like someone was standing on the roof. The scream sounded like it was in a confined to a room. The walls are thin, so thin that I could hear my neighbors' activities and even their conversations. And that scream was loud enough, so I assumed that other people would hear it as well. But even my parents, who were just at the end of the hallway, didn't wake up from their sleep. It was like I was the only one who heard it. Is your apartment haunted? You hearing things? You get schizophrenia? That might be... go to a doctor. Man, the playground kids are loud today. Sometime later, I step out of the apartment and looked up at the roof. It was still dark out, so I couldn't see anything peculiar, and it didn't seem like it was like anyone was on it. I didn't want to stay outside very long, so I got in my car and drove to work. Until now, I don't hear any reports of what I heard, and nobody heard anything, so now I'm here trying to figure out what happened that day. Maybe it's... Okay, so sound can be a little bit strange sometimes. Maybe it sounded like it came from one direction, but it actually came from a different direction. Like, maybe it was downstairs and it, like, echoed off of your ceiling and made it sound like it was coming from above you. Like, there's so many possibilities. I don't know. That is scary, though, man. That is creepy. Phew. Man, they need to control their children, or I need to close my windows. Not sure which. Do I need to close the windows? I think I may need to close the windows. I think I gotta close my windows. And I had to blow my nose. So I just close the one that's pointed at the playground. Hopefully it'll keep the sound at bay. This one is written by U-Meridemont13. And it is titled The Things You See in the Woods. Do I really have to close both of them? This window's annoying though. Okay. Now, hopefully, we'll stop hearing the playground children freaking out and practicing their somebody's coming to get me screams for crying out loud. Man, why is it never quiet here? That do be a real thing, though. Like, I swear to God, the kids at the playground next door just constantly be practicing their somebody's trying to kidnap me screams. It's loud. And I'm gonna be completely honest, the pitch of it alone is just my poor brain. Oh my Lord, oh my Lord, oh my Lord, oh my Lord. This one is titled The Things That You See in the Woods. First of all, let me start off by saying that this story is from almost 30 years ago when I was a kid. I've told very few people the story due to... My camera's dying. I gotta grab the thingy. For crying out loud, I'll be right back. Love you too. Okay, there we go. For heaven's sakes. For heaven's sakes, my Lord Tundra and Jumping Jolly, General Jesus, Jehoshaphat. There we go. Man, I've really got to clean off my art counter. It is so full of cups of brushes. Like, all of my brush containers are out, and it is ridiculous. It looks like a paintbrush bomb went off in here. Man, I have just far too many paintbrushes. Like, I have too many paintbrushes. Half of them aren't even used. Why is my eye twitching? Okay. So, let's get into the story now. First of all, let me start off by saying that this story is from almost 30 years ago when I was a kid. I've told very few people the story due to not feeling like anyone would believe me. Like, A lot of kids in the 90s, I was hanging out over a weekend with a close friend of mine and staying at his house. And like a lot of kids in the 90s, I was hanging out over a weekend with a close friend of mine and staying at his house with him and his family. We lived in a rural VA and he lived in a small town like I did. We spent a lot of time riding four-wheelers and exploring the nearby woods that was across the soybean field. One weekend I was visiting and it snowed an average amount for VA, about 4 to 6 inches or so. And we were beyond excited to take the four-wheelers out to the field and tear it up a little bit. After we were bored of that, we parked at the edge of the woods and walked in a ways. Now, we had been in we had been in this area of the woods quite a bit and had seen a lot of things. There was a lot of old equipment and even old rusted out cars spread through in the area of the forest. And being teenagers, we thought that this was really cool and would often go check these out. That's a really bad idea. And the worst part is I remember being like a preteen and finding old rusted out cars and stuff in the middle of the forest and thinking that it was so awesome and constantly going out with my friend to go check this stuff out. And we'd always be out there looking at stuff and trying to find what we would call artifacts and picking up random parts. And oh my Lord. Stop it. That day, we decided that we were going to start building a fort of sorts back near the debris. I often called a small hatchet on me. I often carried a small hatchet on me when we were riding the trails in case a smaller tree had fallen across the trail. I walked back to the four-wheeler and got it started to chop down a smaller tree to use as the base of a wall. For the life of me, I could not find another tree of the right size after that one was placed, so I started walking around the area without my friend. It was then that I stumbled upon a rotting deer carcass. Now, this didn't bother me. Growing up in rural VA, friends and family were hunters, and I had eaten my fair share of venison in my life. However, I noticed that the deer had what appeared to be claw marks on it. Was this prey for another animal that didn't stick around for its meal? What animals could catch a deer were even out in this forest? Coyotes? Coyotes, maybe? Yeah, definitely coyotes. Coyotes can catch deer. I went to get my friend to show him the carcass, and he was puzzled as me, but we just kind of let it be. I returned to the building and our fort as I was using some rope to tie two of the smaller trees together, and something caught my eye about 50 yards away. What I saw was just the silhouette of a person. However, it was rounded off and blurry. Almost like what you would see in a comic book or a video game indicating an unknown character. Startled, I simply yelled, "Hey!" at it, and it was then that it darted behind a tree. I'm now actually aware that we are not alone, and I yelled for my friend, and he comes over, and I let him know just what I saw, and he laughs it off. As he's laughing, I stand up from my squatting position and see the same shadow over his shoulder no more than 10 yards away, and I scream, "Oh shit!" and immediately take off running for the field as I yell for him to follow. I hear him following me as footsteps grew closer, and then I hear his footsteps grow farther away. I turn and look, and he has split off onto a different path. And at this point, I really didn't care and just kept running. And as I reached a large ditch that was roughly 5 feet or so deep, I jumped across it in a panic. I later discovered how far of a jump that was and have no idea how I cleared it. That's adrenaline for you. As I reach the field and get out of the woods, I see my friend standing about 30 yards down the line of the woods, hunched over and breathing heavy. I checked behind me to see nothing, and as I start to walk towards him, I ask, "You saw that, right?" To which he responds, "Why do you think I'm out of breath?" We jumped on the four-wheelers and head back out towards his house, not saying a word. And when we get back, I asked him what he saw because I wanted to know if it was the same thing that I saw, and he described it perfectly. We tried to talk to his parents, but they both just laughed it off and said, "Guess you better stay out of the woods." He had no idea to go talk to his grandmother, who lived a couple of blocks away and had lived in town her whole life. We simply asked her if she had ever heard anything strange about the woods over there, and she began to tell us about an old sawmill that had exploded back in her time. She said how much of a tragedy it was at the time and that nearly everyone had lost their lives. This explained the old equipment. This explained the old cars rusting out. And they had just cleaned up parts of the accident, likely the dangerous parts, and left the rest. And when we told her our story, to which she smiled and told us how people don't realize that we aren't alone in the world, absolutely horrified at this point, we left. Neither one of us has ever returned to those woods. My hand axe is still sitting back there, and I had terrible dreams for years about this incident. Still, 30-ish years later, have a random dream about the incident, and I don't know what we ran into that day, and I'm certainly not going to go back to check. Oh, that was a scary one. That was creepy. That one made my spine feel weird. I don't like it. Okay, so I guess that is it for this stream, and I love you guys. Please like the video if you like the video. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Please dislike the video if you dislike the video, but tell me why you dislike the video down in the comments section so that I can do better in the next one. I love y'all, and as always, I love you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Mwah! How do I turn this thing off now?